Hello, my name is Rob Garner. I'm a computer programming instructor, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to write a Hello World C# program using just a text editor and the command line. So the normal workflow for doing this is basically open a text editor, and we're going to use Notepad++. You can use just the regular Notepad that you have installed on your system. We're going to write some code and then save the file as a .cs extension and open a command line window. Compile by typing the file name at the command line, and it should run. We'll see that there can be some complications at step 5, but I'll show you how to resolve those on your system. So let's open up a Notepad++ window, and what we're going to do is just write a simple, essentially Hello World application. We'll be using functions from the system library, so we'll use using system. In C# we use namespaces in order to differentiate the names we use from possibly other files in the project. So it's generally considered a good idea to use a namespace. Often your namespace may have your company name in it, something like this. You can put as many dots as you want into that in order to create separate spaces for your names. For today, we'll just use Hello World. All programs in C# are contained in a class, so we're going to create a class called Hello World. This class name does not have to be the same as the namespace. In fact, it could do something like this, for example. All programs in C# need to have a main method. This is a method. Methods have a name. They will always have parentheses. Sometimes we'll have arguments that we pass in through between the parentheses. In this case, our main methods typically are parameterless. We can use them, but we'll look at that possibly later. And in this case, our main method is not returning anything. We're making it void. You can actually have it be an integer and have it return some numbers to the operating system when it runs this program. And what that's usually used for is to tell the operating system whether or not execution occurred normally. If you return the number 0, for example, this will return the number 0 to the operating system, letting it know that we had normal execution. We're going to make it void, however. And we're going to output some text to the console. And in order to do that, we say console.writeLine. Again, this is a method. You can tell because of the parentheses. In this case, it's the writeLine method of the console class. So methods in C# are generally associated with a class, and the console class has a number of methods which are used to work with output to the screen. And so here we're going to just say hello world. This method takes a string as an argument, and in this case a string is represented by putting double quotes around the text you want to be in the string. So this entire segment is the string. The double quotes are delimiting the string so that the compiler can tell that when it comes to this point in reading the program, that here you are providing it a block of text for it to use as one integrated string. Otherwise, what it would do is, if you had it like this, it would try to resolve these as variables or as commands, and it would look for a hello command, for example, and wouldn't find it. So in order to avoid confusing the computer, we need to tell it that this is a string by delimiting it with double quotes. Another command that we can get from this console class is the readline command, and what this will do is it'll give the user the opportunity to press a key, and we need this because if we don't have it, the console window will, after it prints this out, it'll just close the window and we'll never see it. So we're going to ask the user to hit enter to continue, basically. And then the last statement on your method, in this case the main method, is a return statement which tells the computer that you can stop. And generally the computer will, or the processor will run all the way through. If it hits a return statement, it'll return and exit out of that function. Alternatively, if there wasn't a return statement, for example, if it was like this, it would run until it saw the last curly brace, and it would stop execution there. Notice also here that we're putting semicolons at the end of each line. That's how the compiler knows that we've reached the end of a line of code. And our code is all contained within two sets of curly braces, an opening and a closing set of curly braces. So if you look at the format of this function, it has a few keywords in front of it. In this case, we'll talk about what static means a little bit later. It's a void method, which means it doesn't return anything. Its name is main. It has an empty argument list, which means that we're not putting in any inputs to this function. We're calling the WriteLine method of the console class, and that dot, basically, you can think of it as belongs to. So WriteLine is a function that, or a method that belongs to the console class. Again, we're calling a function and it has one argument, this string, in between two double quotes. Line's terminated by a semicolon. Then we're doing a read line to ask to give the user the opportunity to see this message. And when we're done, we're going to return out of the method and complete this function. So that's the basic format of our Hello World program. We're going to save it, and I'm going to save it to my desktop and call it Hello World. And we're going to save it as a .cs file. This is very important. The file extension needs to be .cs so that the compiler can recognize the type of the file. And once we've done that, we can see that our Hello World file is located here. And this is just a file explorer showing my Hello World. program, and what we want to do is open a command line window to execute a few more commands. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is hold down the Shift and the right key button, and you have to do this with the Shift. If you just hit the right key button, you won't get all the menu items. With the Shift held down, you can see this additional menu item comes up which says Open Command Window here. And when I do that, I get this command line window. And the first thing we're going to do is see if we can compile this. So if you have Visual Studio 2013 or 2012 installed, the command line compiler should be installed with it, and the command for compiling a program is CSC. And the name of our program is helloworld.cs, so I'm going to type that next. The keys here are to make sure that the directory you're in is the directory that your file is in. In this case, it's my desktop. And let's see what happens. And it tells me CSC is not recognized as an internal or external command. And generally speaking, what that means is that you do not have a path variable set for this command called CSC. There's a couple ways of resolving that. You can either run this batch file which comes with your Visual Studio installation. You need to replace this section here between percent signs with the path for your Visual Studio 2013 installation, and under there's a folder called Common 7 and a subfolder called Tools, and in there's this batch file which will set the command, or will set the environmental variables so you can access the CSC command. Alternatively, you can run from the Visual Studio 2013 prompt, and when we start working with Visual Studio we might try that, but for now we're going to use this batch file. So first I have to find where Microsoft Visual Studio 2013 is located, and you can do that by going to your C drive and where your programs are located. Normally it's in the x86 program files, and it'll be your latest installation of Microsoft Visual Studio. I happen to have two versions of Microsoft Visual Studio installed, so I look at the latest one, Common 7, Tools, and if I scroll down here I can see there's that VSVARS32 batch file. I'm going to look at that just temporarily just to see what it looks like, but you can see that it's a series of command lines commands that are written to set all the path variables so that you can actually work with the Visual Studio compiler. So I'm going to, if I click on the little folder here, I can get the path displayed. I'm going to copy that, come to my command line, and in order to execute that batch file I need that path, and because there's some spaces in this path, you can see here between Microsoft and Visual and Studio there's a couple spaces. At the command line you have to use some double quotes in order to make sure that it can encompass those spaces. So if you put double quotes, then click on Edit and Paste, And that batch file we want to run is vsvars32.bat, and close it. This will ensure that it doesn't get confused without it. In fact, just to show you what that looks like, if I try to run it just like this, you'll get this C colon backslash program is not recognized. And that's because at the command line, it'll run all the way till it sees the first space and then try to resolve what this is. Since it can't, there's no directory or program called program in the C directory, it gets confused. So we fix that by wrapping this whole thing in double quotes. And we see here it doesn't tell us anything, but this ran okay. Now if I rerun my CSC hello world.cs command, this will actually compile hello world, and we can see it ran the compiler. My hello world file is compiled, and we can now see that this hello world.exe file showed up. Let's look at it in the directory, and right there we have a hello world.exe. So the CSC command took my text file, which had my program in it, and converted it into a .exe, which is a machine code program. It's actually an IL program, intermediate language, but it's got a .exe extension, so now this can be double clicked on and run from the operating system. So I'm going to double click on hello world.exe. We see another command window comes up and it says hello world. We also see that we have a blinking cursor. So if I look at my program side by side with it actually running, when I double clicked on the desktop icon, the operating system looked for the main function in my program, found it, and then started executing each of these commands. It ran the write line command, which displayed this hello world, and now we see that this cursor is blinking. We're actually on this line that says read line. When I hit enter, it gets past this line, executes the return, and continues. What if I didn't have this read line? I'm going to save my program without it. I'm going to come back here and compile my program, and then I'm going to run this program again, and we can see that it pops up, but it closes immediately. So this is why we need the read line command. You can also run from the command line. The dir command will show you what files are here, and we can see there's hello world.exe, and if I just type hello world.exe from the command line, it actually runs it here now in this window, and when I finish, I'm still in the same window. So sometimes it's beneficial to run your programs directly from the command line rather than from the desktop and having a separate window open. We can play around with this, do another console.writeLine. And remember, every time you make a change to your program, you have to save it. and then you need to compile it with the CSE command. And we can see here I got an error. It didn't like the way I wrote console. And the reason is here I wrote it with a lowercase c. C# is very sensitive as far as capitalization, so I have to use the uppercase C. So I'll save my change and my correction, recompile. It looks like that worked. Make sure when you run, you always run the exe version. Run it, and now I have both of those lines. This completes my demonstration of writing C# programs at the command line with a text editor. Thank you very much.